Good evening. Health authorities have...
These vehicles may or may not have mechanical...
It will be a trial within a trial.
Louise Neimer at the Ontario...
The city does have a bylaw that requires...
May 5th, 1987. This is Toronto. Ticket tested. Refugee legislation. And a model of design. CityPulse with Gord Martineau, Jeannie Petty, and the CityPulse theme bring you Toronto's View.
Good evening. The City of Toronto's parking bylaws being questioned in provincial court. I'm here with crime specialist Mark Daly. Does this mean there is a challenge to the Constitution in the office?
Indeed, exactly what it is, Gord. A young law student is arguing that the penalty provisions of our parking tickets are unconstitutional. And although the case isn't over yet, he may have a point. Robert Cooper is arguing this mess before Judge Mary Hogan at Old City Hall over a $10 parking ticket.
What she said so far is that there's been an infringement of your right to a fair trial under Section 11 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
To give you an example, take the usual $10 parking ticket. Here's one now. It's for $10 today, now $20 after May 12th, and it's not accepted after June 12th. A few months later, we'll get a summons for this ticket for $34. Is this an infringement on our right to a fair trial? In other words, if you want to go to court to fight a $10 ticket, the maximum penalty will be 3 times higher by the time you get there.
We're arguing that it's a burden on your right to a trial, and the judge has accepted that.
The city legal department won't comment because they've yet to make their constitutional arguments to Judge Hogan. I expect they'll argue when the case continues in September that the infringement on our rights is reasonable. Now, the Supreme Court of Canada has ruled already in other cases that infringements on some of our basic rights can be reasonable and thus not nullify the law.
So we shouldn't consider this open season on illegal parking?
Not at all. Anybody can try this in court, I guess, if they want to, Gord, but I think everybody is going to be waiting to see what happens with this case and what Judge Hogan does probably later this year.
All right, thank you, Mark. Also on the crime beat tonight, a dramatic arrest today in North York. 27-year-old Nick Gargano was handcuffed by Metro Police following a furious struggle.
You can't do anything easy in the canyon there, okay? You can't do anything the easy way. You want to do everything hard.
When police first arrived on the scene, his home on Wishart Place was on fire. The cause of the blaze was careless smoking. Gargano is charged with assault, possession of narcotics, and breach of probation. In the courts today, sentencing in connection with that huge Brinks robbery nearly a year ago. 34-year-old Gordon Henneberry was given 8 years in prison today. He was working on a Brinks truck when $800,000 went missing during a stop at a shopping center last June. Henneberry had pleaded not guilty to stealing the money, none of which has been recovered. Should property rights be entrenched in the Constitution? More than 60% of Canadians are homeowners, and currently property owners are not officially protected under the new Constitution. Jeff Ansell tells us tonight the results of a new poll show strong support in Ontario for property rights being entrenched in the Constitution.
In 1975, this property on McCall Street was expropriated by government to make way for a hydro facility that was never built. The family that owned the building had no choice but to leave.
The Spadina Expressway. To clear a giant path for it in the late 60s, early 70s, government expropriated dozens of homes.
If property rights were then enshrined in law, the homeowners who used to be here, as well as that displaced family on McCall Street, would have had the right to fight the expropriations in court.
Currently, the only avenue of recourse for homeowners is the Ontario Municipal Board. Pushing for the property rights amendment to the Constitution is the Ontario Real Estate Association, which says the change would still give government the right to legislate necessary land use or expropriate necessary land. Only property owners would have more of a say in the process by having access to the courts.
It does mean that governments will have to show cause when their decisions affect land use.
The Real Estate Association hired Gallup pollsters to see how much we the people care about property rights in the Constitution.
A total of 80% said that property rights was an important constitutional issue, more than those who felt native rights or Quebec were important issues. Originally, when the Constitution was prepared, the right to property was included.
But then Saskatchewan backed out, and now the Real Estate Association wants Premier Peterson to pick up the ball again and sell property rights entrenchment to his fellow First Ministers at their next meeting. At Queen's Park, Jeff Ansell, City Pulse.
Over at Queen's Park, there's more budget election scuttlebutt. City Pulse's Lauren Honickman tells us the Liberal government has announced the new budget will be brought down May 20th.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to advise the House that I hope to read the 1987 budget to the legislature on Wednesday, May 20th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes. I hope to read the budget on the 20th. And
What's going to stop you?
well, who knows? The good Lord may have other plans.
Is that what you're calling?
Or the good premium.
Nixon had wanted a May 14th budget, but the opposition got together and said no. The speculation was a May 14th budget would be followed by a June election.
I'm sure all members are grateful that the spirit of conciliation and compromise has prevailed. Yet again, the minority government continues to work successfully, and that we will give our unanimous consent to the Treasurer to deliver his budget on May the 20th.
You see, Peterson can still, if he chooses, call an election without a budget and just tell the voters what would have been in that budget. Why did you decide to put forward a budget before you called the election?
Who decided that? You guys are getting more ingenious. You are. I give you credit. But...
So, when will the election be called? Well, only Peterson knows for sure, or maybe he doesn't. I spoke to Tory leader Larry Grossman today, and in Grossman's opinion, Peterson isn't sure himself. He's leaving all his options open. He's taking it day by day. Court, back to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren was at the park today. That's usually your beat, Colin Vaughn, but you were out doing something special today.
Yeah, I joined a panel of people who put together to choose a name for the new Dome Stadium. There are about 15 of us, and from all the broadcasting outlets, from the newspapers, there was a student from Jarvis Collegiate, good cross-section, people from business, fans, about 15 of us. We went through 150,000 names this afternoon, 12,000 distinct names. We narrowed it down to 10. We're down to the last 10 names. Those 10 names will go to the board on the board of directors of the Dome Stadium on Thursday. We get a call on Friday, and these are the last 3. Right. Which one do you like? On Monday, David Peterson will name the dome. Now,
you're sworn to secrecy, so you can't really say anything.
I can't tell you anything. I have a favorite, but I'm not even going to tell you what it is. But one thing I can tell you is that the rules say no, the dome will not be named after a person. So it won't be the Godfrey Dome or the Davis Dome or whatever dome. So any of you people who submitted the name of a person for the dome naming contest, bad luck.
All right, thank you, Colin. 1987 has been named by the United Nations as the International Year of Shelter for the Homeless. Metro is not immune to the problem. Some 20,000 people among us are forced to live either in the streets or in temporary housing. A special workshop today brought together the homeless and social agencies. City Pulse's Thalia Shuris tells us they've come up with several recommendations for the Provincial Housing Ministry.
I know a hostel in this town where you can get a good kicking around, and imagine there's no charge for the experience.
The 170 people here, including many of Metro's homeless, know this tune all too well.
It's a lot tougher every time. You run into more bureaucracy. This is about the 3rd time back on the streets for me, and it's even tougher this time. I've been in a jail 5 weeks. It took me 3 weeks just to find myself a room.
We have seen really how that has gone wrong in the past.
It may have been like preaching to the converted, but the workshop setting defined the problems for those with low incomes desperate for housing. They're labeled as animals. They face the not-in-my-backyard syndrome when social housing is proposed in new areas. They can't afford Metro's rent. The solutions do not come easily, and so there's frustration aimed at government.
Roomers need to be covered under the Landlord and Tenant Act now. You're not doing anything about it. How are we stopping homelessness now?
There's no use we be confrontational. I think the way to resolve this is we put our resources together.
Some here say we're at a turning point. Toronto will not remain a world-class city as the number of homeless increases and the attendant problems expand. The middle class is feeling the housing pinch, and so perhaps Ontario is ready for a radical change in attitude.
The key recommendation will probably have to do with housing as a right. I think that's what's beginning to emerge, that people need access to housing on an as-needed basis, on the basis of income, the same as we have access to education and health care.
The provincial Liberals have created 26,000 low to moderate income housing units. Those in the know say 5,000 every year for the next 10 years are needed. But there's much more that's needed. Community support, for example. And that's why all the talking today. A for effort. But what about results?
Everybody talks about helping the homeless, but what we really need is homes, not the talk.
Don Schurz for CityPulse.
Time now to check in and see what's happening in the streets of Toronto with our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole, who's got a story about two men who have a strange way of settling their differences, Glenn.
It was absolutely bizarre. The argument started when a brick was thrown through the front window of a 72 Cougar. The brick thrower tried to flee the scene in his own car, but was chased by the guy with the brick on his front seat. They both wound up in the parking lot of Albion Mall and spent the next 15 minutes smashing into each other. 3 ambulances were sent because witnesses thought people were trapped, but they weren't. Police arrived and stopped the Matador Act, and both 22-year-old Sudash Prasad of Norbert Crescent and 19-year-old Rame Bangari of Liverton Drive has been charged with careless driving causing injury. And a young male is very lucky to be alive at this hour. He was practicing javelin throwing at Etobicoke Collegiate when he somehow tripped and became impaled on the javelin. It penetrated his chest to the depth of 1.5 inches, and Metro Ambulance treated him at the scene and rushed him to St. Joseph's Hospital. He's presently in stable condition, but perhaps he should try another sport. And while smoking can be injurious to one's health, it also isn't good for cars. A fire which began in a car parked in a garage at 341 Military Trail started a second car on fire, then spread to the house. Scarborough Fire responded and had the blaze under control in 45 minutes, but by that time, $52,000 damage had been done. Luckily, there were no injuries. Cause of that blaze was a discarded lit cigarettes in one of the cars. And let's check in with our Bell traffic cameras. We've got a beautiful view of the northbound DVP up around Leaside Bridge, and we've got a good one going for us tonight. And it's beautiful scenery, nice and sunny, and there's good and bad news on the weather scene. Live out on Queen Street, Environment Specialist David Onley.
Thanks very much, Glenn. A beautiful day today in Metro Toronto. It looks like tonight is going to be crystal clear with a possibility of frost in the outlying areas. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and a high of around 20 degrees, but I'm afraid after that the temperatures are going to be getting a little bit cooler for the next few days. I'll have the detailed forecast in a few minutes. Right now, though, an early look at entertainment and John Burgess. John?
Thanks, Dave. Coming up on entertainment, the summer lineup at Harbourfront, and Robert Ito is starring in a play in Toronto. Here's an early look at sports.
We've got Christmas coming early for Leaf coach John Brophy and the Flyers beating the Habs in overtime at the Spectrum. Back to you, Gordon.
Thanks, Howie. Multiple Sclerosis Carnation Day is off to a high-flying start. Premier David Peterson today released 2,850 balloons representing Metro's fundraising goal for this year. Beginning Friday, thousands of volunteers around the city will be handing out carnations in exchange for a donation to help fight MS. Also at Queen's Park today, a successful end to a campaign by civil servants to raise money for charity. Jojo Chinto was the master of ceremonies at today's event, and he tells us that 9 health-related charities will benefit from the contributions.
I'll be the guinea pig. It is called the Federated Health Campaign. It began on April 1st with a goal of raising $525,000 for charities like the Cancer Society and the Diabetes Foundation. 483,287 has already been raised through donations, raffles, and bake sales.
The Federated Health Campaign itself started in 1984, but last year was the first time for the Olympics. And this is what all this activity is about, in which everybody gets out, gets a chance to see what it's like to sit in a wheelchair, see what it's like to try some crutches out for hemophilia.
Teams representing 25 departments from different provincial ministries are here at Queen's Park on the south lawn of the Whitney Block, competing for something called the Premier's Cup. But what's more important is that this is the finale in a month-long campaign to raise money for 9 health-related charities.
We have reached something like 96% of our goal, which is tremendously generous, and I want to thank you.
This $7,000 wall hanging is Toronto artist Rima Brody's contribution to the campaign on behalf of the Cancer Society.
Very nice to be here today, and I hope that the person who wins 2 faces enjoys having it as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you.
The most difficult part of my job as Master of Ceremonies today was picking the winner of these homemade Olympic torches. the winner.
Jojo Chinto with the Federated Health Campaign for CityPulse.
Next on CityPulse at 6, filtering the flow of refugees. Refugees are going to have a tougher time getting into Canada. Our Ottawa specialist Libby Znaimer says new rules have been tabled to streamline the process and also cut down on abuses to the immigration system.
These are pictures of the Tamil refugees who arrived on our shores by boat last summer. Under the new rules, they would not be allowed in. The same is true for these South American refugee claimants who streamed across our borders from the U.S. In an attempt to prevent abuse, the government will not consider claims from people who are seeking refugee status in another country or people who arrive from a safe country.
We had a situation which was described as chaotic. Disorder is unfair. We tried to put some fairness to the system. This is not a theoretical world, it's a real world. It requires realistic solutions, not naivete.
We are concerned that among the group that they're trying to send away, that there could be genuine claimants in that group, and they could be subjected to arbitrary detention, torture, and execution.
Refugee advocates are worried about the new system because immigration officials will now sit on the boards that decide refugee cases, because the grounds for appeal will be very limited, and because the government is going to set up a list of so-called safe countries, countries from which no claims will be accepted. That means, for instance, if a Salvadoran were coming through the United States, he couldn't ask for refugee status here, even though the U.S. could very easily deport him back home.
In a speech to immigrants, the minister said, if I don't deliver a good policy, I will give and throw away my keys to the limousine, and he better throw away those keys and be ashamed of himself today.
No.
But the senior minister says he would have been criticized no matter what changes he made. He insists that no legitimate refugees will be turned away. One thing more, Benoit Bouchard is also refusing a general amnesty for tens of thousands of claimants who are already in Canada. Libby Znaimer, Independent Satellite News, Parliament Hill.
Our top international story tonight, a U.S. congressional committee has begun hearings into the Iran-Contra affair. Bob Kerr has the story in Washington.
It's the same room where almost 14 years ago the Watergate hearings took place. Today, a key player then spoke of a similarity to this investigation.
There has already emerged a picture or pattern of questionable conduct, of illegality and wrongdoing, reaching all the way into the White House, raising serious questions concerning possible knowledge and involvement on the part of the president.
The story that will be told is a sad one. There will be evidence of illegal behavior and contempt for our democratic form of government. There will be stories of greed and incompetence.
But other Republicans took a different view.
We've become obsessed with this affair. Now, this isn't to say that the questions raised here aren't important. Of course they are, and I hope that we will answer them through these proceedings. But whereas a measure of public self-flagellation may be constructive, it seems to me that we have been turning it into an art form.
This afternoon, the first witness, retired Air Force Major General Richard Secord, a key figure in both the Iran arms sales and the channeling of profits to Nicaragua's Contras. Secord testifying without immunity from prosecution.
We believed very much in the significance of what we were doing and that our conduct was in furtherance of the President's policies. I also understood that this administration knew of my conduct and approved it. If we had been successful in every respect, we would not be here today.
So far, Secord has confirmed that the Contras received only a fraction of the money raised for them, that Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North was highly critical of the Contras after receiving reports that aid was squandered and that Contra pockets were being lined. Secord confirmed that he, North, and Contra leaders believed that airdropping aid to the Contras was necessary even after Congress outlawed it, and that he personally solicited aid from a foreign dignitary. Secord also said he was asked to help with secret arms sales to Iran by President Reagan's national security advisor, Robert McFarlane, in 1985. Bob Kerr, NBC News at the U.S. Capitol.
In Jerusalem today, video techniques were used to confirm that John Demjanjuk really was Nazi death camp guard Ivan the Terrible.
Photographs when you compare them with one another?
All the examinations that I've carried out, my conclusion is that the 1942 photograph was in fact taken of the individual John Demjanjuk seen in the other photographs and seen in the video today.
Demjanjuk's lawyer denounced the technique as a video trick. His objection to its use was overruled. Time for another check on what's happening in and around town today, and let's go back to our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole. Glenn.
Thank you very much, Gordon. 2 life and death situations this afternoon, both ending with good news. The Moore Oregon retrieval car delivered a heart to Toronto Western Hospital, and almost at the same time, a liver was delivered by Metro Police to its Marine unit, who in turn took it to Toronto Island Airport for a flight to the University Hospital in London. In both cases, the rush against time worked. After a 2.5-hour operation, a 50-year-old male at Toronto Western is in stable condition. The operation at London is still on, but so far has been successful. It's a drama we seldom see happening in our busy city, but it's the kind of drama with a happy ending. Time for Toronto and regional Crime Stoppers, and tonight the search is on for an armed robber.
Okay, just keep the notes for information. I'll get some along.
Crime Stoppers in Metro Police 54 Division are looking for a man wanted in connection with the armed robbery of the No Frills store at 1150 Victoria Park. That occurred on January 30th of this year. At 9 p.m., just as the store was closing, 2 female employees were tallying the daily receipts in the cash office. Suddenly, they were confronted by a man brandishing a gun. He removed a quantity of cash. He ripped the phone from the wall and ordered the employees to remain on the floor until they heard the alarm go off. The robber then fled down the stairs and exited through a fire escape. Suspect, male black, 25, 5'9", with medium build. He was wearing a dark, hip-length jacket and a woolen ski mask. How can you help? Constable Steve McFarland, Metro Police.
If you have any information about this crime or any other serious crime, call Crime Stoppers. As a caller, you'll never be required to reveal your identity or testify in court. The Crime Stoppers toll-free number is 1-800-387-8477 or locally at 222-TIPS.
Thank you, Steve, and that's Street Beat for now. Gordon?
Thank you, Glenn. Coming up next on City Pulse at 6, examining 299 Queen Street West with an architect's eye. On Close Up tonight, part 2 of our look at 299 Queen Street West. Tonight, architecture and aesthetics. Colin Vaughn tells us from the beginning, the simplified Gothic style of 299 Queen Street West was an attempt to merge past with present.
Burke Horwood and White, who designed this building, were the traditional Methodist architects. They built in Gothic for really 2 reasons. It does what it does for City today. It picks the building out in the streetscape. It's different from the general run of industrial buildings. Gothic wasn't just a style for churches. It was really a symbol of almost a better possibility for mankind. Gothic was both a fashionable style and a significant style. They believed that Gothic could, almost by osmosis, make men better. The fact that they've removed the pointed arches and sorted it out to just horizontals and verticals, it's clearly a commercial building. They're not trying to print books in a church. It's all worked out in terracotta. Terracotta is basically like the pots that you use for flower pots. They've used the symbolic forms, the things that your eye can catch, so that you get these roundels above the first floor windows, and then the panels between the second floor windows. It's Gothic detail, but severely simplified. They wanted to say clearly it was 1913, but that they needed the past, and they were using the past as part of the modern world.
The terracotta is undergoing a long-term
program of restoration. It has now been cleaned, stabilized, loose material has been removed, and now we're just getting into the surveying and replacement of damaged pieces. There are different ways of patching it and dealing with broken units, either basically replacing units or building up with patching material. Those are the two basic techniques. I would guess it'll take 4 to 5 years to complete.
I've coined a name for this style of architecture. It's called low-tech decorated.
Low-tech, high-tech.
No, it's low-tech.
We talked in terms of interactivity and a building that would be capable of shooting itself. And to that effect, you see these red devices. They've come to be known as hydrants, which represent our ability to power up audio and video, sync, intercom, and light in an almost infinite variety of spaces.
So the whole building is a movie set?
Yeah, you can think of it as an infinite number of changing environments in which you can photograph the real life of the people who make and bring you the station. Beyond that, in terms of aesthetic flourishes, we had an affection for little touches, flourishes that related to the modern design movement of the turn of the century. We all were acquainted with and liked a little bit of the Oriental inspirations of a guy like Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and out of all of that came these little touches around the doorways and so on that suggest a little bit of things Japanese and Chinese.
Okay. I noticed that I think it's rather Egyptian, you see. When I see these little door things, I think it's inside there will be a sarcophagus. And the lid will come up and Moses will sit up and sort of say...
A television set will ride. In this area, we're going to have a little... Well, I call it laughingly the City TV store. It's a place where we can display and sell to those people who are visiting the building all our trinkets, our various T-shirts and sweatshirts and shoelaces. Past the City TV store, though, you look onto the orientation area, a little amphitheater, which is, as I said, visible from the street, and which will be the place that people are officially welcome. They're given their first little welcome to City TV. Follow on from there to an actual tour of the building.
You're really conscious of the corridors. What's the concept behind that?
We think of them as streets. They're actual main arteries.
So this is a highway and here's the town.
And these are the little houses and communities and addresses which define individuals and the work that they do. The colors chosen, the kinetic energy of the picture in it says to you, oh yeah, that's City TV, that's much music. Spirit is at the heart of a television station, and this kind of building in this location in the dead center of downtown would add something to the spirit of our work, and that one way or another that would translate to better programming, better audiences, and ultimately better business.
And tomorrow, how we've adapted to suit the building and how 299 has evolved to suit City TV.
Thank you, Colin. The weather's straight ahead with David Onley. That was a beauty today. What's tomorrow look like, David?
Well, Gord, it looks like it's going to be somewhat of a replay, only a little bit warmer. Stay tuned. I'll be right back in 2 minutes with the weather.
I'm John Burgess, and coming up on entertainment, a Demon's Summer at Harborfront.
Now our CityPulse News test. Who is the federal immigration minister? If you know the answer, call us at 870-7716. Tonight's second correct caller wins a pair of tickets to Zastrossi at the Factory Theater.
Well, that's the view just down the road from our new studios here in 299 Queen West. A beautiful view of the tower. Let's take a look at the sun times for today, May 5th. The sun rose at 6:06 and will set at 8:25, and that'll give us 14 hours and 19 minutes of daylight. Today, we got up to 18 degrees Celsius, or 64 Fahrenheit. The norm's around 16, and the record high was 31, set in 1949. The overnight low tonight, 2 degrees Celsius in downtown Toronto. We are, however, expecting scattered frost to the north and the east of Metro Toronto. The norm is around 4 degrees, and the record low was -1, set in 1854. Now let's leave that beautiful shot of the tower and head out to our new location, just outside our studios here at 299, and take a look at present conditions. The temperatures dropped just a little bit, down to 17 degrees Celsius. The winds are relatively calm. They're from the south at 22 kilometers an hour. The relative humidity, 27%. The pollution count is 8. And we will be getting new letters in 2 weeks. Now, you may wonder what that's about. Well, take a look at those letters. They're a little bit different than what you're used to here on City TV. And the G5 machine that cranks up those letters was the last machine to leave our old studio and will be installed shortly here. So we hope you'll enjoy these for the next little while, and then we'll be back with the new ones. Well, we've had a great day today in Metro, and it looks like things are going to be pretty good for the next couple of days. But tomorrow is going to be the best of the lot as we get up to a high of around 20 degrees. Let's go up to our satellite picture right now, and what we will see for today is still a relatively clear pattern throughout all of the province of Ontario, but you can see a disturbance to the northwest part of the province, and that's going to eventually drag some clouds our way in the next couple of days. Right now, let's go to our Southern Ontario Teledawn temperature graphics, and we can take a look at the temperatures across the board tonight throughout all of Southern Ontario. And you can see it's going to be fairly consistent, really in the 2 and 3 degree range, all the way from Toronto down to Windsor, and Peterborough a low of -1, Muskoka -2. For tomorrow, again, a relatively consistent pattern across the province, really not much of a range difference from 17 degrees in Muskoka to 20 degrees down in Windsor. Tomorrow, things will start off mostly sunny and stay that way throughout the day. We should have a few clouds here and there, and you can see that cloud pattern building in from the northwest. It really shouldn't affect us tomorrow, but will start to increasingly affect us as the week rolls along. Our high tomorrow, 20 degrees Celsius or 68 Fahrenheit. But then after that, a bit of a cold front comes through, dropping the temperature to 13 degrees on Thursday. Friday, mostly cloudy and 13 degrees with a real chance of some scattered showers. Saving the best stuff for the weekend, really. Mostly sunny and 15 degrees for Saturday, partly sunny and 15 for Sunday. Let's do a recap, and we'll take a look at the skyline. A clear sky tonight as we get down to a low of 2 degrees Celsius. Possibility of frost again in the suburbs. At 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, it will be nice and sunny and 7 degrees. And then during the day, we'll be going up to a high of 20 degrees Celsius or 68 Fahrenheit. That's the forecast, Gord. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, David. Time now to find out what's happening out in the city as we go down the hall to Much Music. And here's John Burgess.
Thank you, Gord. There's a hot lineup of free entertainment at Harbourfront this summer. Lance Chilton was at the launch for the Lakeside Entertainment lineup.
You know, I'm still fairly new to the city team, but I am an extremely dedicated entertainment reporter, and that's why I spent almost the entire afternoon here at this party finding out what's going on at Harbourfront just for you. Actually, it wasn't just a party, it was a press conference, and I did manage to learn that there are a lot of great acts coming to Harbourfront this summer, including In the Jungle, Dr. John, Renegade from the Law, The Satellites, Blue Rodeo, Real Life, Just and the incomparable Shuffle Demons. This should be fun. I am looking forward to it. Lance Chilton for CityPulse.
Music fans are mourning today Paul Butterfield, the musician who popularized the blues for rock and roll audiences in the 60s, was found dead yesterday in his Los Angeles apartment. The 44-year-old musician was involved in a number of recording projects at the time of his death. The coroner's office says there was no apparent cause of death and that an autopsy will be performed. Robert Ito, well known as the pathologist on the TV series Quincy, has returned to Toronto to star in a song for a Nisei fisherman. It's the story of a first-generation Japanese-American and his relationship with his family.
I'll go back to law school, finish it off, Get your law degree and start practicing like your older brother. Then you can do whatever you want in your spare time.
Dad, I'm not Robert, and I don't like law.
Who cares whether you like it or not? That's not the way life is.
Like all older people do, they reminisce about all the things that they wish they'd done, wish they had said, or wish they hadn't said, you know.
In your career as an actor, have you been typecast?
Always. I mean, as an actor, yes.
Still? You say always.
Oh, yes.
Still? Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, we're always asked to play the stereotypical Japanese businessman, and of course, I end up with a Japanese accent, and I'm always talking with a Japanese, like president of a company. I come over here and talk with a Japanese accent. And the first time I was able to break through that was in Quincy. As an actor, I try very much to play the human being and not the stereotype, you know, that they expect us to do, like meditate and all those little crazy things.
Right. I want to write.
Right. Before it was music. You can't even feed your face. Hey, keep a steady job. Support yourself.
Forget it. Just forget it.
How are you going to write? Huh? What you even going to write about?
You. It's a piece about you.
The British film Prick Up Your Ears is in the official competition at the Cannes Film Festival. Prince Charles and Diana will be at the French Film Fest, which opens this Thursday, but will probably miss this excellent movie about playwright Joe Orton and his lover Kenneth Halliwell, who eventually murdered him. For all that, it's a very funny film with an excellent script.
I just want to go to the awards. I could, look, Joe Orton and guest. I'd behave. I wouldn't say a word, I promise.
No.
Why?
Because it's for me. I wrote it.
I gave you the title.
Okay, so when they have awards for titles, you can go to that.
So Ken didn't get to the awards ceremony, and I did.
I give you the award on behalf of the Metropolitan Police.
At moments of triumph, men can do without their wives.
They cramp our style.
But sharing is what wives want.
Right. And Ken was a coach as well as a wife.
Poor Ken. Still, it was a popular win. Joe was young, the play was naughty, it all seemed very bold.
My plays are about getting away with it, and the ones who get away with it are the guilty. It's the innocents who get it in the neck. But that all seems pretty true to life to me, not a fantasy at all. I've got away with it so far, and I'm going to go on.
Gary Oldman, who plays Joe Orton in Prick Up Your Ears, also played Sid Vicious in the film Sid and Nancy. Well, Prick Up Your Ears is not everybody's cup of Earl Grey, but it is an entertaining, funny, and controversial film. Odeon Cineplex is now playing it in Toronto. That's Entertainment Guard.
All right, John, thank you very much. We're standing by for sports with Howie when we come back. Time for sports with Howie. You've got good news for the Brof.
Oh, yesterday when we visited with Harold Ballard, he assured us that John Brophy was going to be around for a while. According to Ann Romer, he made good today. Over the past few months, many of us have been wondering about the fate of Coach John Brophy. Is he in or is he out? Well, some good news came from Maple Leaf Gardens today. Looks like Coach Brophy's going to be with us for the next 3 years. John, congratulations. Were you surprised at the terms of the contract?
Well, I was surprised probably at the length of it, but when I talked with Mr. Ballard today, it was discussed as 3 years, and he had no problem with that, so I'm sure he's happy about it, and it's unfortunate we're not in Edmonton tonight to play, but we got to now start and make the hockey club a better club for next year, and then continue on the road to the Cup, I guess.
What kind of confidence does this instill in you now?
Well, it gives you a chance to get up working on a one-year contract. It certainly tells everybody that you're going to be here for a while, and certainly when you want to get something done, it will be easier, no question.
Does this mean that Ballard has confidence in you?
Obviously, or he wouldn't have been talking to me today. But I assume that, and I'm certainly happy to be here. It's a great city, and it's unfortunate, like I said earlier, we're not in Edmonton tonight playing, but Being realistic, I think that we did as well as we could against Detroit. Anyway, we let them off here in the 6th game, but I think with the injuries we had, I know the players played as hard as they could play all the way, so you can't ask for more than that. You have to win in this game, and there's no question about that, and I'm just lucky enough to be fortunate enough to be able to get another chance at it.
The Wales Conference Final opened at the Spectrum last night. In the first period, the Flyers on the power play. Crossman to Brian Pop. Pop puts it home behind Brian Hayward's 1-0 Philly. Less than a minute left in the period. Shot from the point, tipped by Shane Corson. The game was tied at 1. In the second period, Ryan Walter picks up a loose puck over a bunch of bodies into the net, 2-1 Montreal. In the third, with the Habs up 3-2, the Flyers tie it up. Eklund to Nackbauer to Derek Smith, 3-all. The Habs almost won it in the last minute. Whoa, nice move by Carbonneau around Samuelson. Couple of saves by Hextall. They go into OT. 9 minutes in, Zezel behind the net, out front. Chelios tries to drop on it. Eklund, the second of the game. Flyers win 4-3, game 2 tomorrow night. The Red Wings are out in Edmonton to open the Campbell Conference Final tonight. Nobody gives them much of a chance except for the Oilers.
Well, I think you got to respect their discipline. I think the 3 times that we played them since Jacques took over this year, everybody's seen a big change in that, and they got a good, solid defense, and they play well as a team, and you can overcome a lot of things when you do that.
The Oilers have been playing a patient game in the playoffs. With 8 wins in a row, there's no reason to change.
You know, you look around the locker room, you see a lot of guys that can put the puck in the net, and we're gonna get our goals, we're gonna get our opportunities, and if we can just limit their chances, I like our chances to win.
The Jays were rained out in Kansas City last night. The Yankees won in Chicago, so they're both 4.5 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers now, and there have been some conflicting stories concerning the bone chips and Dave Steve's right elbow. One claiming the Jays want him to have surgery right now with an ERA of 7.43 in his 5 starts. I can see why. But the Jays are adamant that it's up to Dave Steve, and Steve claims that it's okay, so he'll go on the weekend, probably Friday night, in Texas. No such luck for the Canadian Grand Prix. It is history for 1987. The FIS canceled the race last month, but Labatt's, the official sponsor, tried to revive it. Unfortunately, their efforts were in vain. They'll try again next year. In the meantime, there will be racing at Villeneuve the weekend of June 12th. A full card of Formula 2000, 1600 Porsche production. A good weekend for enthusiasts. Gord, that's it for sports.
Howie, did you find the Oilers were kind of overrating the Red Wings, trying to keep themselves up for the game? I don't think the Wings have a chance at all.
Well, I think Hanlon may steal one game for them, but they should go out in 4 straight. I mean, Edmonton didn't have to use Gretzky double shift or Messier double shift for the first 2 series that they got through, so they've got a lot of strength and they're healthy.
Yeah. Give the Oilers a chance to rest up for the final.
That's right. McSorley will come up big.
All right, we'll be back in a moment.
Great line.
Our CityPulse News Test answer, Benoit Bouchard is the federal immigration minister. Tonight's winner receives a pair of tickets to see Zastrozzi at the Factory Theater.
This is Cycle Safety Week in Toronto, and our own pedal pusher, Greg Risk, got involved in a media safety event today, sponsored by the city.
Besides this testing of skill, the city will hold a TTC Car Bike Challenge Wednesday, an urban cycling survival seminar Thursday, and a free bike check at City Hall on Sunday.
Okay, Jack, I hear you're the one to beat.
Well, that's how are you in shape to beat me today?
I think so, I think so.
Well, I'm going to be watching to see how safely you ride on the road because, of course, that's what it's all about. We want to see if we can cut down on the number of accidents, and I think I'll actually steer clear of you with those glasses on. I don't know if you can see through those things.
Something most people forget, their hand signals. I lost rather miserably on this event last year, but this year, I got clever. This is a crosswalk. There are now almost 200,000 cyclists in the city of Toronto, enough to justify the City Cycling Committee to spend almost $100,000 on safety. Now, despite the fact that there are more than double the number of cyclists in Toronto since 1981, the number of accidents has been going down continuously.
We got to get that guy from City TV off the road. Our accident stats will go down considerably.
Great idea, Dave. Great idea.
In third place, again, an excellent ride. However, on the Serpentine over in the corner there, he scored a 0 from City TV, Greg Rist. Congratulations, Greg.
I was last year.
I was last. Practice, that's what I need. Just a little more practice. From Nathan Phillips Square, this is Greg Rist for CityPulse.
Our final look now at what's happening in the streets as we go back over to our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole.
Thank you very much, Gordon. No major problems on our expressways, but the sun in the eyes is giving some drivers a little trouble, so make sure that you drive with your headlights on. And as always, make sure you're buckled up and driving safely. Now for what's on CityPulse tonight, here's Ann.
Thanks very much, Glenn. Money specialist Peter Silverman has found a cooling trend in Metro's sizzling real estate market. He's looking into that tonight. As well, this evening, we drop by the NDP nomination of MPP Tony Grande. He will challenge Liberal candidate Haviva Hosek in the next provincial election. Now, with a final look at the weather, once again, here's David.
Thanks very much, Ann. Cool and clear tonight as we get down to a low of around 2 degrees in the city of Toronto. A real chance of frost, however, out in the suburbs. For tomorrow, mostly sunny and a high of 20 degrees or 68 Fahrenheit. Gord, back to you.
Thank you, David. That's City Pulse for tonight. Ann Moroskowski has the next tonight at 10. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Good night.